on. Getting closer to the holiday here. We're happy you could join us. We think it's an important meeting. We want to get the report hopefully out. Happy that we have one in our short period of time, even though it got shorter even than last year, but we still managed to put something together that we hope is helpful to the legislature. So I thought I would start by sharing the screen so I can have the agenda. There we go, because the links are on it here. The website has been updated for everyone if you want to look at that link. Will did a nice job, and now we're changing over to Emily as our legislative aide. And we welcome Emily, she's on the meeting too. So we would like to start with the draft report, hopefully to remove draft by the end of this meeting. And we'd like to just go through all the sections. I did make some changes based on people's recommendations, and Christopher did as well. So we'll stop and talk about those. Please stop us, Christopher, if you see any hands too, please let me know. While I'm looking at the screen here, I don't want to miss any questions, but please feel free to just speak out too, to be sure that we can answer and address anything. So the table of contents here and our charge.
Alicia,
ahead, please.
we still see the agenda, not the report.
Oh, thank you so much. Let me see what happened here. Let me go back. Oh, you know why? I'll have to put it on this screen. No worries, because this screen is sharing for some reason. So let's just do that.
Okay, now we can see the table of contents.
Yes, great. All right, it's beautiful. I'll look over here. Then I'm looking at the other screen, so please don't be offended if I'm looking away. All right, so there's the table of contents and our charges. We did add the third one. The two are our two subcommittees, but the third is to give them an update on what we had recommended last year and follow up with that. So that's part of this report.
Oh, Lisa, could you increase the magnification of the report so that we can see it?
Sure. Tell me how that is.
That's much better for me.
Yep, please let me know. All right. So this is, if you have your screen open, nothing changed on this part of the report. I do have the members here, and there I highlighted Tammy's name because it was not spelled correctly. And I wanted, I don't know if, with Talitha, was she appointed? I wasn't sure. So we only can have appointed members on the actual task force. So I don't know, Will or Emily, do you know? We don't have that information.
Let me check. Talitha?
Yes. She was at a meeting. She may have just been in attendance, which is wonderful. I just don't know if she's on the, she's the only one that I didn't have who had been in attendance, and I want to be sure if she was part that we put her in.
I don't see her on my list, but
right.
that she's been appointed, and I just don't have the information. But yeah,
What we could do, I think, is because I think she was there at the behest of, and forgive me, I can't remember, but I think she was there also representing a department. So we could have her sort of as list her as a guest, representing a particular department. But we just need to know which one.
Yeah, we need to find that. I'll leave it highlighted then. And Tammy, I have your name correct. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Great. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, then I will unhighlight that later. You are so welcome. All right. Anything yet? All right. The process. Let me see. I don't think I changed Oh, the only thing that's highlighted here is we want to put what action does occur by the end of this meeting. And nothing else changed from when we sent the Word document. Anything to add or change, comment on here? Sorry if I'm scrolling too quickly here. But there's nothing else here. Okay. Then
No,
we
I think
get,
it just provides the General Assembly members
yes.
sort of a documentation of how we approached this work to date. So
Right,
yeah.
and to document that we didn't have a lot of time here to do what we had done, so hopefully their expectations are in alignment with the time actually given to us. So we did put the plan, we talked about having a plan really as a big part here, and I know I shared it with the people who had been providing some information for the discharge here about the infant and toddler care. And I did on this page make some changes. I think it's just these two. Let me just make sure. Yes, these two. I'm going to go back and stop now. These were placed differently than your original Word document based upon the recommendation from the department. So the Connecticut commissioner wanted to make some changes here. They seem to make sense for me. I hope that they're still okay. Questions here? And then the other charge. And I don't see any changes made from what we had originally sent to you in the Word document.
I was remiss because I didn't highlight. I did just subsequent to information that we got from Roseanne, I just elaborated a little bit the information in the second cell under considerations, just to emphasize that our aim is to. Yes, right there.
Okay. And I did, based on information that we received, make some other changes even today, so we can talk about those. And I may not have interpreted exactly as people wanted to, so I'm looking forward to sharing it to see what people say. Okay.
Perfect, and that's what today's about.
Exactly. Give your feedback. Okay. Then this, it more or less came out of our first report. Again, just to let people know the foundation here of our work. I didn't make any changes based upon anything anyone said after I sent the Word document. Okay. And so then here, again, this is more or less what we had talked about last time. It's how we organized our recommendations for the first report so that it's clear as to what we did. This is important to stress again. And that we did highlight some based upon the help that we received as to updated action. So I sent to you the green and the gold. Today, based upon information that we received, I did make one new recommendation also for H7 that we can look at when we get down there. So the other items haven't been addressed yet to the best of our knowledge, and there is also a new recommendation. So then we go through, so this has some action taken, and you can see what it is based upon these Senate bills. And the same thing for 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. So 7, this would look different from the others because there's the green part that shows that these 2 House bills show progress that has been made, but then this is the recommendation that I took from the information that we received. How does this look? This new recommendation, is this as expected or requested?
This is Alice, if it's
Yeah.
okay. I was the one who made the request for the eliminate the regulatory requirements for the mastery test for LMSW. I know I was just texting Amy Soto and Christina just to, I know Steve Karp has met with DPH, but quite a few groups, including the DEI group from the Behavioral Health Oversight Council, has been looking at the data from the American Social Work Board and the discriminatory issues related to only 39% of people who identify as Black are passing the LMSW test. Also, the LCSW is the same, but across Connecticut, including Connecticut NSAW, Behavioral Health Oversight Council, hopefully we'll examine it in January, as well as the Nonprofit Alliance, are really pushing for this test to be eliminated until either, forever or until a better test is found, which is what the legislation says. Legislation says that test or, a better one. But we don't know, from what I understand from the social work world, there isn't really another test that could be given that would be, that has been tested for racial bias, but the one that they are giving now, and we are finding a lot of barriers for folks graduating with an MSW, not getting even going for the test, not prepared for the test. So anyway, there's with this workforce issue, this was a big issue, this is a big barrier we've identified. And
Alice did submit 5 or 6 documents that we can put on the website for people to review in the future as well. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Yeah,
Illinois and Rhode Island have both eliminated the test for right now. And I also shared the actual data from the American Social Work Board on the pass-fail rate related to race.
and for that reason, those 2 states primarily, Alice, eliminated it?
Yeah, from my understanding, there's quite a few states that are considering it.
Oh.
Now that ASWB has released their data, it was very difficult to get the data. Once they did get it, we're seeing a lot more action happening.
Right.
Alice, do you so in here we specified LMSW? Do you think we need to add LCSW or no?
Personally, yes, but I think right now we're really looking at the barriers for the workforce, and we're having a lot of folks who are graduating with their MSW test who are not able to. Oh, Roseanne, how are you? I just texted Steve to see if he had any feedback, but I don't know if you want to add anything to this or.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are aware of the racial bias that's come out, and that's not the issue that I'm concerned about and getting rid of the LMSW. But I really think that it should be removal of the test that shows so much racial bias until a better test is found, not totally removing the test. As a person who's been in this field for over 30 years and has many experiences, what was happening before is people who didn't have a license, who didn't have their LCSW, were just not getting their license. And they were working, which is really against the law, but they were doing that. And there was no way to track them once they didn't have a license. So the other concern is these people need supervision. And is there going to be an end date upon when someone doesn't need to supervise them anymore, because otherwise, if I took on someone without a license who had no plans to get their LCSW, I would be supervising them for their entire career.
I think first of all, I would totally accept if that amendment you wanted to make until a better test, less racially biased test or non-racially biased test was found. Personally, I don't know if anyone else has their hand up or wants to share. I just want to point out that this is actually still keeping the LMSW license. So the application and the process and the supervision requirements that are required for an LMSW to be able to achieve LCSW, which is 3,000 hours of supervision. So anyway, but that would be fine. I think,
Yeah, the part about the supervision, if I can explain it, I'm not being very clear, but if someone doesn't plan to go for their LCSW, they're working in the system without a license for their life. And the LMSW, they had a license that they could get supervision for certain things clinically, like you have to get supervision to have a diagnosis. I'm not really sure if you have to sign every chart, but I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you. But I know
in an outpatient setting licensed by DCF, anyone who has an LMSW has to be supervised and by a licensed clinical social worker and signed.
right. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So when people aren't going to have a license, where is the cutoff point?
They will have a license. They'll have an LMSW. They just won't have to take the test.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if I'm not disagreeing with you about the concerns you have about the racial bias. What I'm saying is, if somebody is not planning to go for another license and you need supervision always on your LMSW, that means that those people have to have someone who is available to supervise and sign every chart and go through for every diagnosis that they put down and everything that they do, because it's, if you're the LMSW, it's your license. The LCSW, it's your license and your liability.
Yep.
And when somebody is, there were people who were billing, agencies that were billing under LCSWs, and they didn't know it. And the LCSW is the person who the agency, the insurance company goes after, not the agency. So if somebody was doing something in an agency and billing under my license and I didn't know it, the licensing people would go after me. They wouldn't go after the agency. So I have concerns about how long somebody would need to have supervision. And if they don't feel that this exam is workable for them, and maybe they feel that way about the LCSW because of that, then somebody has to be supervising these people their entire career. And that concerns me, because who has that time to, I don't know about everybody else who's doing this work, but we're tapped out. They can't find people. You keep talking about how you need more people to do this work. The job is very, very complex these days. So I just need to raise these issues.
So how does this affect our recommendation, this discussion?
Well, again, I really want to hear it until a new test has come forward, but also there needs to be some timing to this.
I think that what we were looking at was, what are the barriers to professionals, right, joining the field, and that was what our work was, and so our recommendation, which I'm fine with, evidence of racial, a new mastery test until a new test has been agreed upon, by the state, would be fine. I don't think, Steve and I talked at length about all of the other things. Those are requirements that DPH would have to put in place. Around the licensing and how long someone is licensed for. But one of the barriers for even just beginning therapists has been this exam. As you know, the original legislation says you had to pass the exam before you could see a client. And so we were having 3, 4, 5 months and sometimes never passing the exam. And it was a real problem for staff. So hiring staff and people going into the career.
I guess my question is, if somebody graduates, is now able to do clinical work, and an LCSW has to continually look at their diagnosis, read every note, co-sign it, are these people going to be required to get their LCSW in 2 years, or whatever the normal procedure would be? Or are they going to be ending up like other people used to be, just working and somebody has to supervise them?
Well, I think that's a DPH decision. And also an organizational decision. So I can't say that. I think this particular recommendation is really only the barriers to actually having people join the field.
And
Okay.
would those other considerations obviously be discussed or not? As part of the decision to eliminate, do you think? I would think, but I need
Yes.
your.
I think right now, the legislation is 1 or 2 sentences that says about the licensing exam is you have to pass the licensing exam for your LMSW, and there's certainly other parts around the licensing, but this particular regulation is you have to pass the mastery test by the ASWB. And the governor has made some extensions because of COVID and things like that. But what we're asking for is, because this new information is out, the racial bias, connected to this exam is unacceptable to the state of Connecticut, as was Illinois and Rhode Island. And we're asking for it to be eliminated so as not to create a barrier, and until a new test has been agreed upon, that upon the state, and the state is pretty aware of the racial bias built into the exam.
And I guess my issues are about the first sentence, which says steps to retain the people that are already there. And those are my concerns. Because if you're just going to keep putting more and more on the people who are already there, you're going to have to replace the people who are going to leave, and you won't have anybody to supervise.
So it does sound like all of the pieces are there that we want to recommend. Not that this is an easy solution to this problem, but that you want to keep what you have. But there's one barrier particularly that seems to be distressing and may have other effects that will have to be discussed.
I'm sorry, I didn't know anybody was in. I apologize.
Can I just ask a quick question? If we were to insert a third bullet, Roseanne, like what is it that we would be asking for?
I guess for people to be discussing how this is going to affect retaining the LCSWs that are going to have to be supervising people in it. For how long will they? So if I took on a person, do I supervise them for 2 years, assuming that they're going to get their LCSW for clinical work?
So this is just for clarification, Roseanne, forgive me. This is just tangentially related to the test, right? This is a problem that already exists, that people, over and above the test issue. This is people who are getting their license, but they're not pursuing the LCSW and as a result of that, more work is being created for those who have the LCSW license?
Well, I think that that's why the LMSW was developed, because people were just working without a license forever and not getting their LCSW. So I'm just saying, if you're saying to people that because of the racial bias, they don't have to have a license, my concern, and I may be all wrong, my concern is that they're going to say, well, I don't need to get an LCSW either. And then the people who are supervising them will need to be supervising them forever in order for them to work.
Well,
So, but Alice was saying that they would still be licensed. It was just a matter of not requiring the test as a condition for licensure.
It would be licensed under, and as Roseanne is saying, they would need a continued supervision. I don't know the details of that, but Roseanne, you know, part of the incentive of getting your LCSW, at least at my place, is a $20,000 increase in salary. Another part of the incentive is being able to go and work in private practice and have, you know, your ability and internally as licensed LCSWs who supervise get time off of their productivity for their licensing. So it's sort of like there's a catch. I don't know where you work, but like it's sort of you know, there are places, there are things in place. But I feel very strongly that the test itself, from our experience quantitatively and qualitatively, we see a significant decrease in people pursuing the field. And that is a major issue as a barrier for care, especially in new hires and being able to hire people. Believe me, I'd rather hire and supervise somebody for the rest of their lives and still have somebody who can see our families. We're you know, breaking here in terms of being able to provide clinical services.
So maybe it's a matter of it just in terms of language, investigate, you know, writing in that we're gonna sort of investigate issues associated with individuals not pursuing the LCSW.
as a task force,
No. We're making recommendations to the legislature.
right? Well, I'm not sure what you're saying. Okay.
Oh, I'm thinking that we would write it in as a recommendation, not that we're going to investigate it, but that that, you know, the appropriate agencies investigate this issue.
All right. So you want me to change this language to read what?
Well, let me ask Alice and Roseanne, what are the agencies that would need to sort of delve into this issue more deeply?
I don't know about DPH. Does DPH have to come up with, as Alice was talking about, to look into, you know, do LMSWs go for their LCSWs? It's a lot of work to supervise. It's a lot of work to read over every single meeting and look at the diagnosis and check it out. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, so maybe it's a matter of you know, that the administrative agencies should investigate the implications of individuals not pursuing their LCSWs. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Okay.
Because I agree. I think that these are two related issues, but I think the more immediate issue, as Alice is saying, is, you know, we're having people even being prevented from getting into the field at the moment because of this demonstrably racially biased test. So if we address that, but then we also need to make sure that we're not ignoring this existing and potentially burgeoning issue.
So to remain parallel, the verb is what to start this?
I think, or I was maybe recommend that administrative agencies investigate, clinicians.
Maybe it's not a bullet, then maybe it's just another sentence.
Yeah, whichever.
We don't have to, if Roseanne, you want to send a sentence, that would be good, or I'll try to send one so we don't have to wordsmith right now. unless you want to have it for the,
I
As
think
long
that,
as,
oh, sorry.
so say, as long as everybody's okay with that here, because we do want to get some type of vote, hopefully today.
okay. So Chris, why don't you repeat the sentence you had, which I thought was,
Just since it's a recommendation, we don't need to use the word recommendation. Maybe request that the relevant administrative agencies investigate the
Wait.
Yeah. That they investigate social workers' progression
Mhm.
to the LCSW, and the associated impacts.
Progression to the LCSW and the,
And associated implications or something like that. Open parentheses, e.g., ongoing supervision, close parentheses, period.
locations. What, please?
Then open parentheses, e period, g period, requirements for ongoing supervision, close parentheses, period. And I would do that as a bullet, as a separate bullet, because it's related to, but it's not
right.
necessary to the second bullet.
Okay, it's not parallel, but okay,
Oh, wait a minute.
because they're all
Oh,
verbs.
I'm
and-
sorry. The verb was request that the relevant administrative.
Okay.
agency. Sorry about that.
All righty. Yes?
This is exhausting. No, I'm just kidding.
I
Thank you,
I want to
everybody.
get it just right.
Sorry.
really appreciate it.
No, Roseanne, you're a detail gal. We like that.
That's why we're doing this. All right, then 8 has some activity. 9, no. 10, no. 11, no. 12 has some activity. 13 has had some legislative activity. I'll work on the spacing here. 14, it changed when we added that new.
Yeah.
This all changed. I'll have to look at all this. Okay, safe. Some activity for SA1. SA2 needs some more attention or some attention. SA3 has had some progress, as well as 4. Then we come to engaged as part of the whole child framework. And this came, did you add this or did I add this?
This is what I added.
Please, go ahead.
So, I mean, just in brief, the legislature, under SB1 this last year is going to review some provisions, but I did want to make mention to the legislature. They should know about it, but the governor and the commissioner last summer made a $2 million grant to educator preparation programs in the state who wanted to participate. So for 2 years, there will be federal money made available to emerging teachers to cover the costs of licensure exams and stuff like that. But it's time limited, right? It only exists for the 2 years that those $2 million exist. So it still needs to be recommendation, but it could be modeled on the administrative action that the governor took last summer.
Thank you. That seems to be recurring too with infant and child care, same problem. They're getting some money now, but then what happens? in 2
Well,
years?
and I think that we as a body need to make that plain to the legislature. You know, you might have heard these things are in place, but they're time limited. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you. 3 and 4 still need some attention. 5 as well. Here's 6. Add some attention to it. And then we get to supported. Attention for these two. Moving on. Challenge still needs some work. And then we had under 31 asked that we be continuing, and of course we are continuing right now this work.
Yeah.
After that, then,
Moreover, we asked for an additional year and they gave us 2. So
but more work to do too, so. All right, there's all of our references. And then for the appendices, we put together then just those recommendations that haven't been addressed, to look at those by each one of the categories. And we probably should add that new recommendation we just put in here. And then here's the actual, both of the bills that originally established us, and then we put the second one in too, so that the whole report shows the reason for our being and all the specificity of the bill. Yeah, you probably should add H7 then, do you think, back here? With the new
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know, since we're getting more granular, I'm wondering whether we even need to include the consolidated recommendations or whether we want to just leave the full one.
I just wasn't sure how, I mean, it's clear to us. And let me go back just for a minute here. Close your eyes for a minute so you don't get dizzy. Just to go back, you know, is this key here clear enough?
I thought it was a stroke of genius on your part, because I think it really sort of identified, you know, areas where some action was taken, areas where no action had been taken. So I'll defer to others, and that just seems to me a really sort of elegant way to deal with it.
Yeah, because we're not saying that they're fully addressed, and maybe when you consolidate, it appears that, okay, we can remove those others that have had some work on them by having that consolidated list. So maybe that's an argument for removing that consolidated list.
Yeah, and I think in truth, last year, if I had thought to color, although no action had been taken last year, but I think color coding it really, I think, illustrates what the issue is.
So then the recommendation would be to remove, pardon me again, just want to make it clear what we're talking about. It's after the references, to remove pages 40 and 41 and 42. So we would just strike these. This whole part. Which
I
should
think
be
removing is a decent idea also.
removing them, Christine?
Yeah,
Okay.
and really, kind of goes to your point where a lot of the funding you did say is temporary. So looking at just this consolidated, it looks like, oh, all those things are taken care of, but really
Right.
they are temporarily taken
Right.
care of.
Right. And some not fully. There was some action. You want to give
Yeah,
credit where
yeah.
credit is due, but not necessarily to the
Or maybe
level.
not exactly the action we had hoped, but I
Right.
mean, it's a step in the right direction,
It
you
should be
know?
noted. Yes. Okay.
I think the color coding, again.
The color coding is great. I liked that also.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll move the consolidated recommendations. All right. Those will be removed based upon this discussion. All right. Anything else to add, remove, discuss about this report?
One thing, Alicia, and forgive me, I feel like my neurons are just now firing.
Okay.
Did we indicate that, I think we did, that that we're utilizing the webpage?
Yeah.
We did say, okay.
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
know I sent Will a number of articles
Yes.
included, which aren't necessary for now, but they'll be necessary for the next step. So I just want to make sure that, you know, the legislature and everyone else knows that, you know,
There we go.
Yeah.
Documents can be found on the Connecticut
Yes.
webpage
Okay, thank you.
with the link there too. So yes, absolutely. Right. So then we'll end up, we go back here, we'll end up removing this part.
Yes.
All right. And just going A and B. Other comments? Questions, concerns? Then if we want to look at, well, I'll go back here again then, to make a recommendation to approve the report, go to the front page, we approve the report of the task force to study the comprehensive needs of children in the state as presented and edited. Would anyone like to make that motion? Or we can just say it's okay because that's not officially that we have to have a,
Well, I'll move it. if somebody
okay.
seconded it.
And anyone? Anyone?
Second?
Okay, thank
Christine?
you. Yes. So other discussion. All right, seeing none, everyone in favor of presenting the report as edited? Please signify by saying aye, raising your hand. One of the
Aye.
above, great.
Aye.
Okay. All right, any nays? Any abstentions? So how many are on this meeting?
There are 16, including Will and Emily.
So we'll have to say 15. Yes, okay, great. That's wonderful, thank you. Next then was to look at meeting dates for next year. And most of them are on the fourth Monday from 3:30 to 4:30 or 5 as needed. We didn't put any meetings in the summer and September because of, I think it was the Jewish holiday. November may have been because of Thanksgiving, and December to give us enough time to be sure we can submit it by the required date. Those meetings are the 3rd and not the 4th. What do people think about this schedule? And then if we have to meet in between for small groups, fine, but we may be able to take care of a lot, we hope. This is quite a few meetings. Considering what we did in a couple of months, we should be able to do quite a bit here, accomplish quite a bit here. Any comments? Seem okay? Great. Please speak up now, or we're going to make this, get rid of proposed here, and these would be our dates. So I think then, Emily, you would need to be sure that we can have these dates. We sent a couple to Will, but we didn't send all of them to be sure that we're in compliance with how many meetings can be held, even though it's online.
It should be fine. Yeah, we'll schedule those.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I did remove the proposed. Please, Christopher?
And I was just going to say, I think some of this time will be spent because we've got two meaty recommendations or tasks. We could use these time, a lot of it in our breakout sessions.
Absolutely. I think most of it, heretofore will be, and just allow enough time to share, get other input, or just give a quick synopsis so that we are remaining one task force, even though we have kind of a partial topic. We all are still concerned with the whole task force and the charges. I agree. That's great. Thank you. All right. So I don't know. It's been quite a bit of time. We've gone through a lot. I don't have any deep desire to finish off the year doing anything else. I'm fine with this, but I don't want anyone to feel as if they need to have something else said in a breakout room or share something with a small subgroup before the end of the year. I'm so happy that we can share something with the task force, with the legislature, that I think is very worthy. But anybody opposed to not having the break rooms, I did put if time permits, knowing that it might have been some length of time to get through all that, and it was appropriately. Anyone need to have a breakout room?
I don't personally think that, if others might. The one thing I would say though, is I think it would be helpful for all of us if, between now and the time we get together in January, if people find resources that are pertinent to either of our tasks, to send them to you and to me so that we can get them through Emily's good graces and Will's onto our webpage. Resources that people think will want to consider come spring.
And I will, of course, I'll ask Emily to put the revised, once all the edits I have finished, put that on the website, but I'll also send a Word document to all the members so that you can see it with all those changes we just made, and remove the highlights and change the pagination and make sure you'll get the final copy.
Perfect.
Sounds wonderful. Well, we hope everyone then, I'm going to stop sharing here, has a wonderful holiday. Thank you for many of you, your continued work with us. It's a lot and we still have quite a bit to accomplish, but I think we are on a great path here for success. So we thank you for sticking with us. Any final thoughts, Christopher? Anything else you wanted to?
No, just I think, I know I know you feel blessed to continue to work with this group because everybody's so thoughtful. It's over and above the other work that everybody has to do, but I feel like we did really good quality work last year, and I think we've set the table for doing good quality work this year upcoming. So thank you, everyone.
Right, we couldn't do that, everybody, and we know everyone is so busy on this task force. So thanks again. Happy holidays to everyone then, and we'll see, what did we say? The first date then would be January 23rd. We'll see each other next. And yes, feel free to share documents and we'll read them and be prepared for the next meeting. So happy holidays and Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Emily, can you stay on and you can stop the live recording?